Listen carefully. Heaven has paused time for you right now. Everything around you may feel noisy, uncertain, and shifting, but this moment is holy. You did not stumble here by coincidence. This is a divine interception. Heaven is speaking directly to you, and the entire spiritual realm leans in as your name is whispered before the throne. You are standing at the edge of revelation, where destiny begins to unfold. There are moments when God halts the ordinary flow of life to deliver an extraordinary word, and this is one of them. You have been moving through battles no one else fully sees, carrying burdens that would have broken others, and still, you have not given up. You may have questioned why your path has been so heavy, why every step forward has been met with resistance. But hear this clearly: resistance has always been the proof of your divine assignment. The enemy does not fight what does not threaten him. You are a threat to darkness because your light carries purpose. You have felt the weight of delay, the sting of rejection, and the silence of heaven. Yet what if that silence was not abandonment, but preparation? Every unanswered prayer, every door that seemed closed, was God positioning you for what could not be rushed. Sometimes heaven withholds until your heart is ready to receive. And now, the time of withholding is ending. This word is your confirmation that something is shifting in the spirit right now. You have been hidden, not forgotten. You were covered, not cast away. The hidden season was heaven's way of strengthening your foundation before exposure. Like a seed buried beneath the soil, you were growing in places no one could see. And just as a seed breaks before it blossoms, your breaking was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to release what God planted within you. There is a crown reserved for those who did not quit in the crushing. The fact that you are hearing this means heaven has kept you through the storm. When the waves rose and the winds screamed, you did not sink because your calling is anchored in eternity. You were not created to blend in with the noise of this world. You were formed to carry divine frequency, to vibrate at the sound of heaven. Every time you felt unseen, heaven saw. Every tear you cried in silence watered the soil of your next season. You have been walking through divine testing, not divine punishment. You are being refined, not rejected. The pain was never random. It was proof that you were chosen for endurance. It is no small thing that heaven stops for you. Angels move at the command of God's voice. And right now, that same voice is reaching through this moment to remind you that His plans for you have not changed. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are being aligned. The Word of God declares in the book of Isaiah, chapter 46, verse 10, "My purpose will stand, and I will do all that I please." Nothing that tried to delay you can destroy you, because what God establishes cannot be undone by man. His purpose for you is eternal. Even your mistakes have been woven into His mercy. That failure you thought disqualified you. It was only a detour that revealed how much grace was covering you. Heaven is not interested in perfection. Heaven is interested in surrender. Surrender is not weakness. It is the place where divine strength begins. When you release control, heaven releases clarity. And that clarity is arriving for you now. You will no longer live in confusion. You will no longer walk in circles. You will begin to see divine alignment in your connections, opportunities, and timing. What once felt delayed will begin to accelerate. You may not feel ready, but God does not call the qualified. He qualifies the called. He is about to show you why He kept you alive. why He preserved your name, and why your heart still burns even after everything you've been through. You are the living proof that purpose cannot die under pressure. From this moment forward, Heaven commissions you to walk differently, to speak with authority, to love without fear, and to stand firm in faith even when storms rage. You are entering a season where the same people who doubted your calling will witness your transformation. They will see the hand of God upon you and know that you were chosen for this time. If this message resonates deeply within you, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe so that this flow of divine words continues to reach others like you, those Heaven is awakening right now. And before you leave this moment, as an act of faith and alignment, comment the prophetic number 777 below. It symbolizes divine completion, heavenly perfection, and confirmation that the message was truly meant for you. So as you type that number, know this: Heaven sees it. It is not a comment, it is a covenant. The moment you write it, angels move, doors open, and destiny begins to unfold right before your eyes. You were never ordinary. Even before the world named you, Heaven knew who you were. Every moment of your life has been written into divine design. You have always carried something that set you apart, something that made you see deeper, feel stronger, and love differently. It is why the world has never fully understood you. People sensed something about you, something weighty, something otherworldly, but could not define it. What they saw was not arrogance, it was the glow of divine selection. You may have spent years trying to fit into places that were never meant to hold you. You shrank your voice, hid your light, and pretended to be smaller so others would feel comfortable. Yet even in your silence, the anointing still spoke. Even when you tried to disappear, Heaven refused to let you vanish. You were not designed to blend in with the noise of the world. You were shaped to carry the sound of Heaven. Many who are chosen go through years of feeling misplaced. You were never meant to fit because you were called to stand out. That tension between what you feel inside and what the world expects from you is not confusion, it's confirmation. It is the mark of one who carries divine purpose. Heaven crafted you with intention, assigning your spirit to this generation for a mission that only you can fulfill. You are not the result of coincidence or circumstance. You are the result of covenant. Long before you breathed your first breath, your destiny was whispered in eternity. Your spirit carries a remembrance of that moment. And that's why you've never been able to settle for less. No matter how far you've wandered or how many times you've doubted yourself, something inside you keeps calling you higher. That's not ambition, it's assignment. Every gift, every dream, every sensitivity in your soul was placed there by divine hands. The reason your heart breaks for things others ignore is because Heaven programmed compassion into your design. The reason you sense danger before it comes is because discernment is part of your spiritual DNA. You are not overreacting, you are spiritually aware. The veil between you and eternity has always been thinner than you realized. The moments that made you question your worth were never meant to destroy you. They were shaping your capacity to carry the weight of glory. The loneliness, the misunderstandings, the rejections, they were not punishments. They were proofs. Proofs that you are not like the rest. That you were hand-picked for something that could not be built in comfort. Many are called, but few are willing to walk the narrow road of transformation. You, however, have endured the breaking and the molding because Heaven saw endurance in you. Sometimes you wondered if your heart was too soft for this world. But that tenderness is your strength. It allows you to see people through divine eyes, to love even those who wounded you. Do not despise your empathy. It is the evidence that you carry heaven's nature. God places softness in chosen hearts so they can heal what hardness has broken. You were born for this time, not for another century, not for another place. Heaven trusted this generation with your presence because your voice, your story, your endurance carry an answer that the world desperately needs. You are a living message, an echo of heaven walking in human form. And though you faced battles that seemed unfair, they were only the preparation for the mantle that now rests upon you. Scripture says in the Gospel of John, chapter 15, verse 16, "You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit that will last." You see, this is not just a poetic truth, it is your reality. You have been known. You have been chosen. You have been preserved for this exact moment in time. There is nothing accidental about your existence. Every setback was a setup. Every heartbreak was redirection. And every loss was making room for what heaven intends to fill. You do not need to chase validation from those who never understood your design. When heaven chooses, it also covers. You are already approved by the one who called you. Walk with quiet confidence, knowing that your name is spoken in heavenly places, and that your life, though still unfolding, is already marked by divine purpose. And in the days ahead, clarity will come. The confusion that once clouded your path will lift, and you will finally see why every detour, every delay, was divinely designed to strengthen your spirit. You will begin to notice divine patterns, the right people arriving, the wrong doors closing, the timing aligning perfectly. Nothing will feel random anymore. Everything will point toward the destiny heaven has always prepared for you. Walk boldly now. Heaven walks with you. The same voice that spoke purpose into your soul will guide your every step. You are not lost. You are being led by divine precision and unstoppable grace. There are battles you have fought that no one knows about. Nights when your prayers felt unanswered. Mornings when you woke up, exhausted but still chose to move forward. These hidden wars have not been wasted. They have built a strength in you that cannot be learned through ease. Heaven saw every tear that fell in silence, every breath you took when you wanted to give up. You may think no one noticed, but heaven did. The unseen struggles you carry have carved depth into your soul. While others may have judged what they saw on the surface, God was working underneath, refining the unseen parts of you. Every disappointment, every betrayal, every lonely season has been shaping a heart that can handle glory without arrogance and rejection without bitterness. You have often wondered why your road seemed harder than others. The reason is simple. Great callings attract great resistance. The brighter the light, the greater the opposition that rises to try to dim it. But what darkness does not understand is that pressure does not extinguish divine fire, it only spreads it. Each hardship has been the training ground for your authority. The voice of God thundered in the book of Ephesians, chapter 6, verse 12. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world. You see, what you've been facing was never just emotional or circumstantial. It has been spiritual. The attacks were designed to make you doubt who you are. But instead of breaking, you began to awaken. You started to recognize patterns. The same voices that once wounded you now serve as reminders that you are chosen. The same darkness that tried to silence you has accidentally confirmed your purpose. Every sleepless night has built a warrior inside you. You may not feel strong, but your endurance is proof of heaven's investment. There is a hidden power rising in you, a quiet fire that doesn't need validation. You no longer chase approval because your identity no longer depends on it. You have learned that sometimes the battle is the blessing in disguise, and the struggle is actually the soil where purpose grows. Think of a diamond buried deep in the earth. It only shines after enduring immense pressure. You, too, have been under that pressure, not to destroy you, but to reveal what cannot be broken. Heaven has been watching over you, using even your losses as tools to shape your destiny. Every time you thought it was over, grace whispered, "Not yet." Do not despise your scars. They are not symbols of failure. They are proof that you survived what was meant to end you. They tell the story of resilience, of faith that refused to die, of light that refused to go out. Heaven has recorded every silent victory, every quiet yes when it would have been easier to quit. Those yeses have built altars in the unseen, and now the fragrance of your perseverance reaches heaven's throne. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are being seasoned, refined, and made ready. The battle has been your classroom, and the pain has been your teacher. What you have learned in tears will soon become wisdom. You'll speak with authority, and when you speak, hearts will heal, because your words will carry the power of someone who has walked through the fire and come out shining. Soon, you will understand why you had to fight so hard for peace. The strength you gained in private will soon be needed in public. Others will lean on the faith that your battles have built. You are becoming the evidence that survival is sacred and that pain can be holy when placed in God's hands. Now, take a deep breath. Let this truth settle into your soul. You were never fighting alone. Angels stood beside you, and heaven fought for you even when you could not see it. What you are feeling right now is not exhaustion, it is transformation. The warfare was proof that something within you carries eternal value. And when your spirit agrees with this truth, type these simple words in the comments: I still stand. Not for attention, not for show, but as a declaration that even after every storm, every disappointment, every unseen battle, you are still standing. You are still believing. You are still chosen. Let those 3 words echo through the atmosphere as your testimony that light always wins. When you write, I still stand, you are not just commenting, you are proclaiming something in the spirit. Those 3 words are a banner over your life, declaring that the fire did not consume you and that grace carried you through. Each time you type them, heaven records your endurance. It becomes a testimony that even in weakness, faith endured. You are telling darkness, you tried, but I am still here. You are reminding yourself that survival itself is victory. Let that declaration travel beyond the screen. Let it echo into your atmosphere, breaking fear, shame, and regret. I still stand, because you were always chosen to rise. There is a light within you that terrifies darkness. You have felt it flicker through the storms, burning quietly even when fear tried to smother it. That light is not ordinary. It is the signature of heaven within your spirit. From the day you came into this world, darkness recognized your name. It knew that your existence would be a disruption to its dominion. That is why the battles came so early, why the warfare was relentless, why peace seemed rare. The opposition was never about who you were, it was about what you carried. Your presence carries divine voltage. Even when you walk into a room, atmospheres begin to shift. People feel it though they may not understand it. You carry the evidence of a realm unseen. That is why some have resisted you without reason. Why certain doors closed when you were ready to serve with pure intention. The enemy could sense what you would become if ever you discovered the truth of who you are. You are not fighting random struggles. You are living through targeted resistance. The spiritual attacks were never about destroying your reputation. They were aimed at dimming your revelation. The enemy fears an awakened child of God more than anything else. Because when a chosen one remembers their authority, darkness loses territory. And that's what is happening now. You are awakening. You are remembering. There were nights when despair whispered that your light had gone out. Yet, even then, heaven kept the ember alive. The smallest spark of divine fire is still greater than the deepest night. You are proof that darkness cannot extinguish what heaven ignites. You have survived what others could not, because the flame inside you is eternal. It was lit by the breath of God Himself. Do not measure your worth by the size of your audience or the number of people who see your glow. True light does not seek attention. It transforms everything around it without needing applause. You have already influenced more than you know simply by surviving with grace. Every time you refused to respond with bitterness, every time you chose peace instead of revenge, your light expanded. We are reminded through the writings of the Apostle John. Chapter 1, verse 5, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." That verse is not distant scripture, it is the description of your life. Darkness has tried, but it has not overcome you. The lies, the betrayals, the exhaustion, all of it came to make you quit. Yet here you are, still burning. That endurance is supernatural. Heaven preserved you for such a time as this. Understand this truth. Your light was never meant to be hidden. God allowed certain seasons of obscurity not to bury you, but to protect you. Oil is produced in secret before it's poured in public. Your anointing was cultivated in private battles where only heaven could see your tears. Those hidden victories have made your light mature, steady, unwavering, refined by fire. When you speak, heaven recognizes your tone. When you move, angels align. When you pray, dimensions respond. This is what it means to carry divine illumination. You are not just surviving life, you are shaping it through spiritual authority. The same spirit that hovered over creation now moves through your obedience. Many have underestimated you because they only saw your humanity, not your fire. But your fire has purpose. It heals, it reveals, it protects, it exposes deceit and calls truth to the surface. That is why you have often made people uncomfortable without trying. You remind them of the light they buried within themselves. Your life preaches, even in silence. Do not fear being misunderstood. Light was never meant to be liked by darkness. As you grow brighter, not everyone will celebrate it. Some will distance themselves because your radiance reveals what they have tried to conceal. Let them go. The same light that exposes also attracts those meant to walk beside you. Heaven will surround you with others who burn with the same fire. There will come a time, soon, when your illumination becomes influence. You will not have to strive or convince. Your very presence will shift hearts and atmospheres. God will place you in rooms where your light becomes strategy, healing, and truth. You will not even need to announce yourself. Your spirit will announce you. So, protect your light. Guard your heart from bitterness, for bitterness dims what purity brightens. Keep your worship alive. It is the oxygen that keeps your flame strong. When confusion comes, remember that darkness always grows loudest before dawn. You are the dawn. You are the sign that newness is breaking forth. The days ahead will reveal why you carried so much warfare. Every attack was training. Every disappointment was developing discernment. You were being prepared to walk in authority that cannot be shaken by storms. And now, as heaven watches, you rise not as a survivor of darkness, but as a torchbearer of divine fire. There is a voice calling you out of hesitation, a voice that has followed you through the years, whispering in moments of silence. Come closer. That voice has never condemned you. It has always invited you. It speaks not to your fear, but to your future. You have ignored it before, thinking it was just your own thoughts. Yet every time you tried to silence it, peace left the room. That is because it was not just your inner voice, it was the gentle call of God reminding you of who you are. Sometimes his call sounds like restlessness, like the ache to begin again, like the strange pull towards something you cannot explain. That is heaven drawing you out of comfort into calling. You have felt it lately, the sense that time is shifting, that your spirit can no longer live half awake. Heaven is saying, it is time. Do not fear what obedience might cost you. Every act of obedience births something eternal. When you step where God sends you, provision always follows. The uncertainty that frightens you is simply the space where faith proves itself real. You will never regret the steps you take toward divine purpose, because those are the steps where miracles wait. You may ask, but how will I know if it's really God speaking? You will know because his words bring peace, not panic. His direction carries quiet authority, not confusion. The voice of God does not push, it invites. It never manipulates, it illuminates. He calls you not because you are perfect, but because you are willing. Heaven speaks clearly through the words in Revelation, chapter 3, verse 20. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in to him. That knock is not a sound outside your house, it is a pulse inside your heart. God never forces the door open, he waits for your response. You open it not with fear, but with trust. Each time you say yes, heaven expands something within you. Every step of faith opens a new layer of purpose that you did not know existed. And as you respond, something powerful happens. Your obedience becomes a light for others. Your yes gives someone else courage to say theirs. Your story becomes a seed that multiplies hope. That is how heaven works. One obedient heart ignites another until an entire generation burns with awakening. This is why these messages exist, to remind you that you are not alone in this awakening. Each word that reaches you is born out of prayer, time, and devotion. It is a bridge between your heart and the whisper of heaven. Many who listen find healing, strength, and direction in moments they needed it most. This space is not powered by algorithms, it is sustained by faith and love. If these words have touched your spirit, take a small moment to like, share, and subscribe. Each tap is not a routine action, it's like sending a ripple of light across a quiet sea, helping another wandering soul find this same message when they need it most. And if your heart feels moved to go deeper, to donate or support this mission, think of it as pouring oil into a lamp that has already lit your path. That oil does not just sustain the flame for you, it ensures the glow reaches another traveler walking through their night. Your giving becomes a quiet echo of heaven's generosity. There is no pressure here, no demand, no requirement. Giving is never a condition, it is always an invitation. You should never give from fear or guilt, only from love and gratitude. If your heart feels led, if you sense that small nudge that says, "Be part of this," then trust that gentle whisper. Heaven notices the heart behind the act far more than the amount. And if now is not your moment to give, that's perfectly fine. Your presence, your prayers, your faith, all of it matters deeply. Simply by sharing, you are planting seeds of truth that may bloom in someone else's darkness. You are already a vessel of light. So, if your spirit stirs with quiet gratitude, release it like a drop of light into the sea of humanity. Every act of kindness, every share, every seed sown becomes a wave that carries hope farther than you can see. Take this as your gentle reminder, the door of your destiny stands open. And the same voice that calls you forward also blesses every act done from a willing heart. Obedience is never loss, it is divine exchange. You give, and heaven multiplies. You pour out, and grace overflows back to you. And as these words settle in your heart, may peace wrap around you like a soft dawn light. Remember, you are not forgotten in the crowd. Heaven still knows your name and guards every step you take. When you move with faith, you become a living psalm, an answered prayer in motion. Keep walking, keep glowing, keep giving light where you go, and watch heaven multiply every small act of love you release. You have begun to notice it, the patterns, the divine alignments, the whispers that arrive right on time. What others call coincidence, you now recognize as confirmation. Heaven has been weaving meaning into your days, guiding you gently through symbols, moments, and divine timing. Nothing is random anymore. Each delay, each encounter, each number you keep seeing is part of a heavenly language written just for you. When heaven wants to speak, it often hides truth in plain sight. Maybe you've glanced at the clock at the exact same hour every day, or a certain number keeps appearing around you. Maybe a verse, a song lyric, or a stranger's words seem to echo something your heart was already hearing. That's not coincidence, it's code. Heaven uses repetition to get your attention, to let you know that you are aligned with divine rhythm. When your spirit begins to align with God's order, everything changes. The chaos that once ruled your emotions begins to quiet. The confusion that clouded your thoughts begins to lift. You start to notice beauty in places you once ignored. The same world, the same streets, the same routine, yet suddenly, everything feels charged with purpose. That is what happens when heaven synchronizes your steps with divine purpose. According to what is revealed in the book of Psalms, chapter 37, verse 23, the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delights in his way. Your steps are ordered, not random, not misplaced, not wasted. Every season you've walked through, even the painful ones, has been part of a divine map. There were moments you thought you took a wrong turn, but those detours were often holy redirections. Heaven never loses track of you. Even when you wandered, grace recalculated your path like a divine compass, steering you toward destiny. You may not understand every sign heaven sends, but your spirit recognizes them. Pay attention to the stirrings in your heart, to the numbers that seem to follow you, to the timing that feels too perfect to explain. Those are divine fingerprints left along your journey. Heaven is saying, I am here. I have not forgotten. I am guiding you still. Alignment is not about control. It is about trust. When you let go of needing to understand every detail, you make room for divine flow. You stop forcing things to happen and begin to move in rhythm with God's timing. That's when doors open without effort. Opportunities appear effortlessly, and peace replaces anxiety. What once felt delayed now begins to make perfect sense. There is peace in knowing that you are walking with heaven's calendar, not the world's clock. What others call too late, heaven calls right on time. The alignment you are sensing is the fruit of waiting, of surrendering, of allowing heaven to rearrange your priorities. And now, the signs will begin to multiply. You will see confirmation in unexpected ways in nature, in conversations, in the stillness of prayer. Heaven speaks softly, but consistently. The more you listen, the clearer the messages become. You are stepping into a season where your awareness of divine timing will grow sharper. You will no longer chase. You will attract what aligns with your assignment. Some will say you are lucky. They will not see the prayers that aligned you, the patience that trained you, or the faith that anchored you. But you will know. You will smile quietly because you understand what they cannot. This is not luck. This is alignment. Now, as you read these words, heaven is confirming your awareness. What you have been sensing lately is not imagination, it is divine communication. The same God who hung the stars also numbers your days and arranges your moments. There is purpose in the repetition you keep seeing. There is meaning in the rhythm of your life. And when your spirit feels that confirmation, respond with a small act of faith. Comment the prophetic number 555 below. It symbolizes divine change, grace multiplied, and alignment unfolding. It is not superstition, it is agreement. By writing it, you are simply saying, I trust heaven's timing. I am ready for divine change. As you do, imagine that number glowing like a key in the spiritual realm, unlocking doors that your effort could never open. Heaven recognizes faith. Even in small expressions, the act of agreement, even through a simple comment, becomes a signal to the unseen. This one is ready. You are aligned. You are guided. And from this moment forward, divine timing is your companion. Watch the patterns, trust the rhythm, and let peace lead your every step. When you comment 555, you're not chasing luck, you're confirming alignment. Those 3 digits are your agreement with heaven's rhythm, a quiet yes to divine change, to transformation that flows not from striving, but from surrender. It's your declaration, I move with heaven's pace. Each time you write it, imagine it as light etched into eternity, a sign that you are listening, trusting, and walking in step with divine purpose. Heaven reads faith in actions, not volume. 555 becomes your key of agreement. Unlocking doors meant only for your season. The weight you feel is not punishment, it is purpose pressing on your shoulders. Obedience often begins as a whisper and grows heavier with every act of delay. You have sensed it, haven't you? That gentle but undeniable pull to do something you've been postponing. Heaven's requests rarely come with explanations, yet they always come with power. When God asks you to move, He already knows what waits on the other side of your obedience. Obedience is rarely comfortable. It asks you to leave what is familiar, to release control, to trust without knowing how it will end. It feels like stepping off solid ground into unseen air. And yet, that is where miracles live. Heaven has always responded to the sound of faith-filled footsteps. Every time someone said yes without seeing, the impossible shifted to make room for them. That is the kind of faith that changes generations, and it is the faith rising inside you now. Sometimes obedience is quiet, invisible to others. It looks like forgiveness when you could have held a grudge. It looks like choosing patience when frustration would feel easier. It looks like giving when no one says thank you. Those hidden acts carry eternal weight because they echo heaven's heartbeat. You see, God measures obedience not by size, but by sincerity. We learn through the words of 1 Samuel, chapter 15, verse 22, "To obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed is better than the fat of rams." That means obedience is not about performing, it is about trusting. It is not about trying to impress God. It is about walking closely enough to hear His instructions and choosing to respond with love. Every act of obedience becomes a bridge between what you have prayed for and what heaven has prepared. There were moments you obeyed even when it cost you. When you walked away from opportunities that looked good but didn't feel right. When you stayed quiet instead of defending yourself. When you chose peace instead of proving a point. Those moments were not losses, they were investments. Heaven never forgets the sound of a surrendered yes. And yes, sometimes obedience feels like isolation. When others don't understand your path. When friends fade away because your priorities have changed. When silence becomes your only companion, those are sacred seasons. That loneliness is not abandonment, it's consecration. God often hides His chosen ones until they're ready to carry His glory without craving attention. You're not being left out, you're being set apart. Think of Noah building an ark under a cloudless sky. Everyone mocked him, but obedience protected his destiny. Or Abraham leaving home without a map, trusting that God's promise was stronger than his logic. Obedience has always looked foolish to those who measure faith by reason. Yet, when the rain fell, Noah's obedience became salvation. When the promise came, Abraham's faith became legacy. Your story is unfolding in the same rhythm. Heaven asks, will you trust me when you don't see the outcome? Because obedience doesn't wait for clarity, it creates it. Each time you follow the whisper, you learn to hear the voice more clearly. Every yes sharpens your spirit until you no longer doubt whether it's God speaking. You simply recognize His tone. If you've been wrestling with a decision, know this: the delay is heavier than the obedience itself. Disobedience drains you, but obedience restores your peace. The moment you align, the weight shifts from your shoulders to His. The burden doesn't disappear, it transforms into grace. You will soon look back and realize that your obedience was the doorway to everything you prayed for. What you release in faith returns multiplied. What you surrender in trust becomes sacred. Heaven never wastes a yes. It ripples through eternity, touching lives you will never meet. Sometimes, obedience requires silence. Other times, it requires movement, but it always requires heart. The simplest act, done with divine intention, carries more weight than grand gestures done for attention. God isn't measuring how loud your worship sounds. He's listening to how deep your obedience runs. You may not see the full picture now, but one day you'll understand why heaven pressed you so strongly. You'll see that every act of obedience was aligning you with a future you couldn't yet imagine. The things you thought were losses were actually exchanges, earthly comfort traded for eternal impact. So do not fear what obedience asks of you. It is never meant to break you. It is meant to build you. Every surrendered moment writes a line in your legacy. Heaven is building something through your yes that will outlive your lifetime. And though the process may feel heavy now, the glory that follows will make it all make sense. You are not being crushed, you are being shaped. You are not losing, you are learning how to carry heaven's weight with strength. Keep listening, keep trusting, keep saying yes. The weight of obedience is only heavy because it is preparing you to hold blessings that ordinary hearts could never carry. There comes a moment when mercy steps back, not because it stops loving, but because it must let truth do its work. Mercy has carried you farther than you realize. It has shielded you from consequences, redirected you from destruction, and covered your weakness while heaven strengthened your heart. Yet mercy is never meant to be abused. It is an invitation to change. When you resist too long, mercy becomes quiet, and silence becomes its final warning. You have felt that silence before. The prayers that used to bring quick answers start to echo longer than usual. The signs that once felt clear begin to fade. It is not rejection, it is redirection. Heaven does not abandon you, it waits. It waits for your surrender, for your willingness to return to alignment. Because love will never force what humility can invite. There are seasons when mercy feels like distance, but in truth, it's discipline. God's silence is not absence, it is surgery. He withdraws his comfort to heal your perspective. When he hides, it's not to punish, it's to purify. The space you feel is the place where transformation begins. Heaven is not punishing your mistakes, it's protecting your calling. The Spirit spoke through the letter to the Hebrews. Chapter 3, verse 15. Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts as you did in the rebellion. Those words were not written to condemn, but to remind you that delay can become danger if left unchecked. The heart hardens slowly, not through one grand act of rebellion, but through many small not todays. Each time you postpone obedience, the whisper of heaven becomes softer, not because God stops speaking, but because your attention moves elsewhere. Mercy will always reach for you, but it will not chase endlessly. At some point, love must let you choose. And when that moment comes, heaven watches, not with anger, but with hope that you will remember how far grace has carried you and choose to return. There is a sacred line between grace and grief. Grace empowers, grief warns. When the Spirit grieves, it is not out of offense, it is out of longing. Heaven grieves when the connection between you and God grows faint, not because of punishment, but because love misses your voice. You may remember times when conviction hit hard, when something inside you knew you were drifting too far. That tug was not shame, it was rescue. Conviction is heaven's last rope before the fall. To feel it is proof that mercy is still working. The real danger is not in falling, it's in no longer feeling the pull to rise again. Mercy stepping back is not God turning away, it is Him standing still, waiting for your heart to turn around. It is the quiet before restoration. It is the moment when heaven stops chasing so that you will start returning. In that stillness, truth begins to echo louder than excuses. Remember Jonah, who ran from his calling. The storm wasn't punishment, it was mercy disguised as wind and waves. Heaven would rather shake your boat than lose your soul. Even the whale was not wrath, it was shelter. Mercy will sometimes look like chaos until you realize it was always safety. You are not too far gone for grace. You have not crossed the line of no return. The fact that you still feel the tug, still read these words, still sense something stirring inside you, is the proof that mercy is near. Heaven has not closed its doors, it has simply paused the noise to let you hear the knock again. Do not let pride harden what pain has already softened. You have learned too much to go back now. Let this moment be your turning point, your quiet surrender before the consequences grow louder than conviction. There is power in a single, honest prayer. Lord, I'm listening again. Heaven rushes to respond to humility like that. If mercy ever feels distant, remember, it's closer than breath. It's not looking for perfection, it's looking for permission. The moment your heart opens, even slightly, grace floods in like light through a cracked door. That's how quickly restoration begins. Mercy never truly leaves it, only waits for invitation. It pauses not to punish, but to remind you that access to heaven's presence is sacred, not casual. When you honor that presence, everything changes. Peace returns, clarity returns. The voice that once felt silent begins to sing again. So do not mistake the stillness for abandonment. Mercy is near. Heaven is holding its breath, waiting for your next yes. And when you give it, when you let go of what has held you captive, everything that once felt heavy will become holy again. This is the tender truth. Mercy's silence is not the end. It is the beginning of a deeper conversation, one where heaven no longer has to chase you, because you have turned to meet it halfway. When you finally turn back, mercy runs faster than judgment ever could. Heaven does not greet you with questions, it embraces you with restoration. The silence breaks, the weight lifts, and love writes a new beginning over your name. You have reached a crossroads, the sacred place where heaven pauses and waits for your decision. Everything you've learned, every whisper you've heard, every battle you've survived has led you here. It is not coincidence that you are reading this right now. This is one of those moments where eternity leans close to earth and watches what you will choose next. The crossroads is not always loud. It often comes quietly in the stillness between one breath and the next. It feels like a stirring in your chest, a question you can no longer avoid. Will I keep walking in comfort? Or will I step into calling? The easy road looks familiar. It promises safety but offers stagnation. The narrow path, though uncertain, holds the fire of destiny. Every chosen one must face this moment. It is where fear and faith wrestle. It is where excuses crumble and truth rises. Heaven will not force your choice. Love never manipulates. Instead, it invites gently but firmly into a greater surrender. According to Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verse 19, I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life, so that you and your children may live. That verse is not distant history, it is living instruction. Heaven still lays out the same choice each day. Every decision, big or small, leans toward one of those two paths. You cannot walk both. Comfort keeps you in the past, calling propels you into promise. You've already tasted what comfort feels like: predictable, quiet, safe. But deep down, you know safety is not the same as peace. Safety can cage destiny when fear becomes the guard. Peace, however, comes when you step into obedience. Even when your knees tremble, heaven rewards movement, not hesitation. Standing at the crossroads requires honesty. You must look at the roads before you and admit where you've delayed. Maybe you've been afraid to let go of something familiar, a relationship, a habit, an identity that no longer fits who you're becoming. Or perhaps you've been waiting for a perfect moment that never arrives. But here's the truth: the perfect moment is the one where you finally decide. You do not need to have everything figured out before you say yes. God never asked for perfection, He asked for willingness. The moment you take one step toward Him, He takes 1,000 toward you. Every surrendered heart moves heaven. Look around your life. Notice how certain things feel like they're ending. How certain people have drifted away. How the old routines no longer bring fulfillment. That is not loss. That is clearing. Heaven clears what cannot follow where you're going. The pain of release is just proof of growth. There is a sacred beauty in choosing God's way when no one else understands. You will not regret leaving behind what no longer carries life. Because on the other side of obedience, joy waits, joy that is pure, not dependent on outcomes. You stand here, heart open, heaven watching. The winds of decision are moving. The same God who parted seas now waits for your next step. The path may look narrow, but it is lined with purpose. The first step is always the hardest after that. Grace takes over. And now, as your spirit leans into this truth, seal this moment with a simple declaration of agreement. Comment the words, "I choose life." These 3 words are not about typing, they are about testifying. They mean, I choose surrender over fear. I choose obedience over comfort. I choose the voice of heaven over the noise of the world. When you write it, something shifts, not on the screen, but in your soul. It's not about showing anyone else. It's about reminding yourself where your loyalty belongs. Your comment becomes a covenant between you and heaven, a small act that says, I am ready to walk forward. Let this be your turning point. The crossroads will not last forever. Doors eventually close. But when you choose life, you step into divine momentum. You begin to walk in rhythm with eternity. And suddenly, everything starts to align. Peace replaces confusion. Courage silences doubt. And purpose breathes again. Type it now, I choose life. Not because you are pressured to, but because you finally understand what it means. Life, real life, is not comfort, but calling. And that calling has been waiting for you all along. When you type, I choose life, you are not just pressing keys, you are answering heaven's invitation. Those words carry spiritual weight. They echo through realms seen and unseen, declaring that you will no longer live beneath your calling. Each time you say them, you are planting a flag in faith's territory. You're telling darkness, you will not have me. You're telling fear. You no longer lead. Heaven hears it as an act of alignment. A moment where purpose outruns hesitation. The angels record it not as a comment, but as a covenant. Let this declaration anchor your heart. I choose life means you choose growth over guilt, surrender over pride, and destiny over delay. From this day, you walk as one awakened. Your fire was never meant to be hidden. You may not have realized it, but every trial, every test, every season of breaking has been preparing you for this moment, the moment when your light begins to awaken others. The pain that once silenced you has now become the fuel that ignites your voice. You are no longer the one merely surviving the storm. You are the one who walks through it, carrying a flame that refuses to die. Heaven has always known this about you. That is why the enemy fought you so fiercely. The fire within you is not ordinary. It is a divine ember meant to spark awakening in others. When you speak, you do not just inspire, you release light into dark places. Your words carry oil because they were pressed out of pain. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 14, "You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden." Those words are not poetic, they are prophetic. You are that city on a hill. The brightness of your life is not just for you, it is for those still wandering through their own nights. Every time you choose love over bitterness, forgiveness over revenge, faith over fear, your fire spreads. Someone watching you silently begins to hope again. This is how heaven moves through willing flames. The same way one candle lights another without losing its own glow. Your story has the power to reignite others. You are proof that light never runs out when it's shared. Each word, each act of kindness, each prayer whispered for a stranger becomes a spark in another's darkness. That is what these messages are about, a gathering of flames. Every time you listen, every time you feel something stir in your heart, you are being rekindled. You are remembering that your existence matters beyond what the world can measure. And if this light has touched you, if these words have reminded you that you are not forgotten, not powerless, not alone, then let that gratitude move through you like warmth. Take a gentle moment to like, share, and subscribe. These small actions are like throwing sparks into the wind, allowing the flame to travel farther. Each click is a way of saying, let this light reach another heart. But for those who feel something deeper, stirring a quiet pull to help sustain this fire, consider giving. Not as duty, but as devotion. Picture it as pouring oil into a lamp that has already shown you the way. That oil doesn't just keep the flame alive for you, it becomes light for someone who hasn't yet found their path. Every gift, whether a prayer, a share, or a donation, becomes a log on the fire. Some offer wood, some offer spark, some offer wind, but together, the flame burns brighter. When you give, you are not paying for a message, you are partnering in its miracle. Think of it this way somewhere. Someone will hear these same words on a night when they are ready to give up. They will scroll through the noise, and suddenly, this message will appear, a single beam of light through their storm. That moment will exist because someone else decided to help keep the fire burning. There is no requirement here, no pressure. The fire burns either way because heaven fuels it. But your participation, your willingness to be part of it, turns this flame into a movement. It becomes not just my voice, but our light, Giving is not about the amount, it's about the alignment. It's about recognizing that what touched you could touch thousands more, and that you have the power to help carry that light, whether through your time, your words, or your support. You become part of the divine chain that heaven uses to reach hearts. And if all you can give is your presence, your quiet amen whispered at the end of each word, know that it's enough. Heaven sees that too. Every listener is a keeper of the flame. Every heart that listens with sincerity becomes part of the story. So let's build this light together, not with demand, but with devotion. Like the sunrise that no one commands but everyone welcomes, your giving is not forced, it's beautiful because it's free. If your heart feels that warmth, that gentle pull to keep this flame alive, follow it. Don't overthink it. Giving from joy never depletes you, it multiplies you. Because the same light that leaves your hands returns to brighten your own path. Your fire awakens nations, but it also comforts one lonely soul at a time. That is how heaven's revolution spreads, not through noise, but through light shared willingly, generously, and without fear. So share if you've been lifted, like if you've been moved. Subscribe if you want to walk in this light again. And if your heart whispers to give, let it. Not as a task, but as a thank you to the one who never let your fire go out. Every chosen one must pass through the wilderness. It is the place where comfort fades and calling becomes clear. At first, it feels like loss. You look around and realize that the familiar has fallen away. People who once stood close are gone. Doors that once opened easily now stay closed. And the noise of the world grows strangely distant. You try to go back to what once satisfied you, but somehow it no longer fits. That is because the wilderness is not a punishment. It is a transition. It is the bridge between who you were and who you are becoming. Heaven leads its strongest ones through isolation, not abandonment. The wilderness removes distractions so that you can hear what silence has been trying to say. There, you learn that strength does not come from noise or validation, but from communion with God in hidden places. It is where your spirit begins to mature, where dependence turns into discernment, and faith stops being theory and becomes muscle. We see this truth written in Deuteronomy, chapter 8, verse 2. Remember how the Lord your God led you all the way in the wilderness to humble and test you in order to know what was in your heart. That verse is not about punishment, it's about preparation. In the wilderness, God reveals not only who He is, but who you truly are. The tests are not to destroy you, they are to prove what has been planted within you. Like a tree forced to grow roots deeper when water is scarce. You have learned to draw strength from unseen sources. That is how you become unshakable. The wilderness strips away the false layers that life built around you. There, you realize that not every connection was covenant. Not every opportunity was divine. And not every loss was tragedy. Some things had to leave so you could finally see clearly. Heaven uses emptiness to teach abundance. When all you have is God, you discover that God is enough and that revelation changes everything. There were nights when you begged for escape, thinking the silence meant God had forgotten you. But now you can see it differently. The wilderness was His classroom, and the silence was His teaching. You learned how to pray without words, how to stand without applause, how to trust without evidence. Every unanswered prayer became a seed of endurance, and every lonely morning became proof that His presence was still near. even when unseen. The wilderness is not about distance, it's about depth. You are not far from God, you are being pulled closer. The fire of isolation burns away dependence on others, so you can finally recognize the voice that matters most. When you walk through this season, you stop performing faith and start living it. Do not despise the wilderness. It has been your refining ground. The version of you that entered it will not be the same one that leaves. You are being equipped quietly, forged in silence for assignments that require strength. Others may be running ahead in visible success, but heaven is anchoring you in invisible strength. Public elevation without private depth is dangerous, and God loves you too much to send you unprepared. Every wilderness has an exit, but only when the lesson is complete. The waiting will end the moment the shaping is done, and when it does, you will emerge with authority that can't be imitated. You will carry peace into chaos and bring clarity into confusion because you have learned to live from the secret place. Think of Moses, who met God in fire and silence before he ever stood before Pharaoh. Think of David, who learned the language of worship in fields before he ever wore a crown. The wilderness is heaven's training ground for destiny. You are in good company there. Soon, what once felt like isolation will reveal itself as intimacy. The pain will make sense. The silence will become sacred. You will look back and realize that the wilderness did not break you, it built you. The loneliness that once haunted you will turn into a deep, unshakable confidence that you are never alone. So breathe. You are not stuck. You are being stationed. You are not forgotten. You are being fortified. The wilderness is not the end, it is the in-between, where heaven rewrites your story and prepares your spirit to carry greater glory. And when this chapter closes, you will emerge not empty, but equipped, not lost, but led, not broken, but built. Every desert eventually becomes a garden for those who do not give up. And soon, the dry ground beneath you will bloom with promises fulfilled. When you step out of this wilderness, you will walk lighter, wiser, quieter in pride, but louder in purpose. The silence will have taught you how to listen, and your stillness will have taught you how to move with heaven's rhythm. Everything you lost will return in a new form, people. Peace, provision, all transformed by grace. You will see that the wilderness was never emptiness, only the shaping of your destiny. What once felt like exile will now look like evidence of God's design. There comes a moment in every chosen one's journey when the crown is revealed, not a crown of gold or jewels, but of endurance, humility, and purity. This is not the crown the world gives. This is the one heaven reserves for those who did not bow to compromise when it would have been easier to conform. You have walked through fire without letting bitterness stain your spirit. You have carried heartbreak without letting hatred take root. And because of that, heaven calls you worthy of reward. The crown is not about power or position, it is about posture. It represents a heart that stayed surrendered when it could have grown hard. The true crown is invisible before it becomes visible. It is forged in quiet battles, in secret faithfulness, in unseen obedience. When no one watched, you stayed true. When no one clapped, you kept going. When everything within you wanted to quit, something divine whispered, "Not yet." That whisper was heaven fitting your crown. We read in the second letter to Timothy, chapter 4, verse 8, "There is laid up for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day. This crown is not given at random, it is given to those who finish faithfully, the ones who do not trade their calling for comfort, who choose conviction over convenience. It is given to those who remain steadfast, even when storms howl and the spotlight fades. The world may never recognize you, but heaven already does. The crown you carry marks you as part of the end-time remnant, the ones who refuse to bow to fear, culture, or compromise. While others chase recognition, you chase righteousness. That is what makes you different. Heaven is raising a generation that values purity more than popularity, obedience more than applause. You are part of that remnant. You are one of the marked ones. Sometimes this crown feels heavy. Holiness can be lonely. Integrity can cost you comfort. There are days when it feels easier to take it off, to blend in, to just stop trying. But remember, your endurance is not unnoticed. Every time you choose to love when you could hate, to pray when you could complain, to forgive when you could fight, your crown shines brighter. Heaven sees. Heaven keeps record. Your crown is not decoration, it's identity. It's proof that you belong to a kingdom that is not shaken by earthly storms. Even when you are weary, even when you feel unseen, you are still royal. You are wearing what cannot be stolen: grace, endurance, and divine favor. The remnant always looks small, but its light carries power. When you walk into rooms, you shift atmospheres. Your spirit disrupts darkness. Your very presence reminds creation that light still reigns. That is the authority of the crowned ones. They don't rule with control, they lead with compassion. This generation needs those who wear invisible crowns, not with pride, but with purpose. Not to boast, but to bless. You are one of them. Heaven didn't choose you because you were perfect. It chose you because you were persistent. You kept showing up when others gave up. You kept believing when everything screamed impossible. So, if you have ever doubted whether it was worth it, yes, it is. The tears, the nights, the isolation, all of it was preparation. The reward isn't just waiting for you at the end. You are already walking in it. Peace itself is part of your crown, and as a sign of agreement, as an act of recognition that you receive this truth deep into your spirit. Comment the prophetic number 888 below. It represents new beginnings, divine renewal, and the eternal reward of those who remain steadfast. It is not superstition, it's a symbol of completion, birthing, continuation. When you write 888, you're declaring that your story doesn't end in pain, it continues in purpose. You're saying, I receive my renewal, I accept my crown, I step into what heaven prepared for me. Let those numbers echo through the unseen realms. Let them remind you that you are not just surviving, you are reigning through surrender. Your crown is real, even if the world can't see it yet. Heaven already has. When you write 888, it is not just a number, it is a declaration. Those digits are heaven's symbol of new creation, the rhythm of renewal echoing through your spirit. You are telling the world, my ending has transformed into beginning. Each curve of the number reflects eternity's flow, endless grace circling back to meet you again. It means what was lost will be restored. What was delayed will arrive, and what felt broken will bloom again. You are agreeing with heaven's timeline, saying, I trust the divine renewal written over my life. So type it with faith, not ritual. 888 is your signature on heaven's covenant of restoration. It is your way of saying, I am not finished, I am being reborn. And as you do, may peace, power, and purpose return to you multiplied. When heaven begins to trust you with power, everything about your life changes. Power in the kingdom is not about control, it is about stewardship. It is the authority to carry light into dark spaces, to speak life where death has lingered, and to release peace into places that have only known chaos. It is the kind of power that flows through humility, not pride through hands that serve, not fists that rule. Heaven does not hand out authority cheaply. It is entrusted, not earned. Before power ever arrives, there is always preparation. That is why the seasons of silence, waiting, and refining were necessary. Every delay was shaping your character so that when power came, it would not destroy you. Heaven will not place eternal weight on a heart still ruled by temporary emotions. The Apostle Luke recorded it clearly in chapter 10. Verse 19, I have given you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions and to overcome all the power of the enemy. Nothing will harm you. That is not a metaphor for aggression, it is a promise of dominion. It means you walk covered, protected, and empowered. The same Spirit that raised Jesus from the grave lives within you. This power does not shout, it stands firm. It does not seek attention, it shifts atmospheres. Real power is quiet confidence rooted in divine connection. When heaven trusts you with power, it also tests your heart's motive. Will you use authority to serve or to be seen? True strength does not need to prove itself. It reveals itself through consistency, compassion, and clarity. You will notice that the more power heaven gives, the softer your tone becomes. The more authority you carry, the greater your empathy grows. You begin to lead not with fear, but with love. Not with control, but with conviction. You have walked through too much to handle power carelessly. Your scars have taught you empathy. Your wilderness has taught you wisdom. You now carry the kind of power that heals what once hurt you. When you speak peace, it is not theory, it is testimony. When you pray for healing, it is not ritual, it is remembrance. You know what it feels like to be broken, and that is why heaven can now trust you to mend others. This power is not about titles or visibility. It is about authority in the unseen. It means when you walk into a room, darkness loses permission to stay. When you speak, confusion lifts. When you pray, doors open. Your presence becomes a reminder that heaven's government is still active on earth. You are not just a believer, you are an ambassador of divine will. Heaven's power flows through clean vessels. And cleanliness is not perfection, it is purity of intention. It means you act from love, not from ego. You forgive quickly. You obey fully. And you stay sensitive to the Spirit's whisper. That is how you keep the current of heaven flowing through you without interruption. You may have noticed recently that your prayers are being answered faster, your discernment sharper, your dreams more vivid. That is not imagination, it is activation. Heaven is responding to your readiness. Power always manifests when purpose matures. You are now walking in a level of trust that your past self prayed for. Still, remember, authority is always paired with accountability. The same God who gives you power also expects stewardship. you must remain anchored in humility, for pride is the only crack that can drain the oil. Stay teachable, stay gentle, stay grounded in grace. The moment you stop needing recognition, heaven increases your reach. Do not fear the weight of what you carry. You were built for it. Heaven never entrusts power to someone unequipped to handle it. Everything you've endured was shaping your shoulders for this exact mantle. You do not need to strive, just stay aligned. The anointing will do the heavy lifting. And yes, some will misunderstand your confidence. They will confuse divine authority with arrogance, boldness with pride. Let them think what they will. You do not owe explanations. Your fruit will speak louder than your defense. Those truly connected to heaven will recognize the presence you carry. The time has come for you to walk in what was promised, not timidly, but with reverent strength, not seeking applause, but seeking alignment. Power without love is corruption, but power with love is transformation, and that is exactly what you were made for. So move forward quietly, but boldly. Heaven's trust in you is not misplaced. You are no longer merely surviving under grace. You are operating in glory. Every word you speak, every step you take, every prayer you whisper carries divine weight now. You are walking proof that heaven does not waste preparation. You are trusted, you are covered, and you are equipped. This power is not yours alone. It flows through you to reach the world. Walk carefully. Walk confidently. And remember, to be trusted by heaven is the greatest honor of all. Restoration is not simply about getting back what was lost. It is about becoming someone who can sustain what is coming. Heaven's way of restoring is never one-to-one. It is always multiplied, redefined, reborn. What you thought was gone forever is being rewritten into something greater. The tears you cried in secret have watered the soil for a harvest you have yet to see. The prophet Joel once spoke of this promise. Chapter 2, verse 25, I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten. Those words are more than comfort, they are covenant. They remind you that God does not forget what was stolen from you. Every missed opportunity, every betrayal, every season that seemed wasted has been kept in heaven's account, waiting for the right time to return multiplied. But restoration doesn't always look like replacement. Sometimes, heaven doesn't give you back what you lost. It gives you something better that fulfills the same need in a deeper way. The relationships that ended, the plans that collapsed, the prayers that seemed unanswered, they were not rejected, they were redirected. The door that shut was only closing because a stronger one was being built in secret. You have walked through seasons that seemed unfair. You've watched others receive easily what you fought for in tears. You wondered if heaven forgot you. But delay is not denial. The silence you endured was sacred. It allowed heaven to rearrange the details. What you thought was delay was actually design, God aligning every piece so that when restoration came, it would not slip away again. You will soon look around and realize that restoration has been unfolding quietly all along. The peace that replaced your panic, the wisdom that grew from your wounds, the strength that now fills your once broken heart, all of it is restoration. It may not look like your old life returning. It looks like a new version of you emerging stronger, deeper, unshakable. Sometimes restoration begins subtly. You wake up and notice the heaviness has lifted. You smile without forcing it. The memories that used to sting now feel distant, healed, holy. That is heaven's gentle way of saying, it's already happening. Emotional restoration comes before visible restitution. Healing always precedes harvest. When heaven restores, it doesn't patch up the old, it creates the new. Think of a mosaic made of shattered glass. The pieces remain, but in new arrangement, they reflect more light than before. That is what heaven is doing with your life. The brokenness you've endured is being rearranged into brilliance. What once hurt to look at will soon become the testimony that shines brightest. Restoration also means reconciliation with others. Yes, but also with yourself. You will forgive who you were when you were still learning. You will bless the version of you who didn't know better, who stayed when they should have left, who loved even when it wasn't returned. That mercy toward yourself is part of the healing. Heaven cannot fully restore a heart still at war with its past. You are being restored not just to happiness, but to wholeness. Happiness can fade, but wholeness stays. It is the peace that settles even when circumstances change. It is the understanding that your story was never about what you lost, but about who you became in the process. There will come a moment soon when everything will make sense. The pain that once defined you will transform into purpose that directs you. The very places where you bled will become the sources of your greatest compassion. You will comfort others with the same comfort that once saved you. That is heaven's pattern: pain turned into purpose, suffering turned into service. Restoration also brings recognition, not from the world, but from heaven itself. There will be moments when you suddenly feel seen again, not by people, but by presence. You'll realize that heaven never stopped watching, never stopped working, never stopped writing your redemption story. The tables are turning, the balance is shifting, and what was taken is being returned in forms you never imagined. So do not look backward in regret. Look forward with reverence. The road behind you was not wasted, it was woven. Every detour led here, to this moment where restoration meets readiness. You are not being repaid for your loss, you are being rewarded for your endurance. And when restoration finishes its work, you won't just receive, you will radiate. Everything about you will testify that what the enemy meant for harm, heaven turned for glory. You will speak differently, walk lighter, love deeper. The fragrance of restoration will follow you wherever you go, reminding others that nothing surrendered to God is ever truly lost. What is ahead of you is not a return to how things were, it's a revelation of how things were always meant to be. You are entering the season of divine restoration, and this time, nothing will be missing, nothing will be broken, and nothing will be wasted. Every scar will glow like gold under heaven's light, proof that pain was never wasted. Restoration will not whisper, it will sing over you, loud and clear. You have endured, you have overcome, and now everything is made new. Something is awakening inside you, slowly at first, like dawn pressing against the edge of night. You can feel it, can't you? That quiet fire that refuses to go out. That steady pulse that whispers, you were born for this. Heaven has been preparing you, not to survive anymore, but to awaken. You are no longer standing on the sidelines of your own story. This is the moment where everything you've carried begins to bloom into purpose. The awakening is not loud. It rarely announces itself with thunder or applause. It comes softly, like breath returning to lungs long forgotten. You start noticing how the same things that once broke you now strengthen you. The pain becomes wisdom. The waiting becomes vision. And the fear that once silenced you now fuels your courage. You begin to see life not as punishment, but as preparation for glory. Heaven is not calling you to be someone else, it's calling you to remember who you already are. You are light wrapped in human form, carrying divine DNA. Every step you take in faith, every word you speak in truth, shakes the foundations of darkness a little more. You were never meant to blend in, you were meant to blaze. As the prophet Paul wrote in Romans, chapter 13, verse 11, "The hour has already come for you to wake up from your slumber, because our salvation is nearer now than when we first believed." That hour is now. This is the season when the chosen ones awaken not out of fear, but out of divine remembrance. You are part of that remnant, a living flame sent to remind the world that hope still breathes, that love still reigns, and that heaven still speaks. Each time you choose faith instead of doubt, light spreads. Every time you forgive, the chains on someone else's heart loosen. When you speak life, the atmosphere shifts. You are more powerful than you realize, not because of what you can do, but because of what you carry. The awakening within you is contagious. It calls others into remembrance of their own light. And now, if your spirit has felt this stirring, if these words have brushed against something holy within you, then let that fire breathe. Take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Not as a routine, but as a ripple. Picture it as a spark you release into the wind, a flame that might land in someone's dark night and help them find their way home. Each share is a whisper of light. Each like is a heartbeat of agreement. Each subscription is an act of joining hands with heaven's mission. None of it is forced. All of it is sacred, because through small gestures, great awakenings begin. And if your heart feels called to do more, to nurture this flame that continues to reach souls around the world, think of giving as planting a tree of light. Every seed, no matter how small, becomes shade for someone else's storm, fruit for someone else's famine. Each seed you plant glows like a lantern in someone else's night. Your donation isn't an obligation, it's an offering. A way of saying, let the light keep traveling. There is something beautiful about generosity that flows freely. It mirrors heaven's own rhythm, unforced, abundant, constant. When you give from love, you don't lose, you multiply. Like rivers feeding the sea, your kindness returns in waves, unseen but certain. Maybe for you, the act is simply sharing this message. Maybe it's a prayer whispered for those still asleep. Maybe it's helping sustain the voice that keeps reminding the world of light. Whatever your part, know that it matters. Every small act is a piece of eternity woven into time. You are not just a listener, you are a living echo. The message lives because hearts like yours carry it forward. And together, we become a symphony of light, playing softly against the noise of the world. If this message awakens something within you, comment, "I am awake." These 3 words are not routine, they are a whisper of agreement. They mean, the light in me remembers itself. Every comment becomes another heartbeat in this shared awakening, a gentle signal that the flame is spreading. So, if you feel that warmth rising inside you, the same warmth that began this awakening, follow it. Don't analyze it. Just allow it. like the gentle release of a lantern into the night sky. Let your support, your engagement, your yes rise freely. It will join countless others, glowing softly in the darkness, each one carrying a story of hope. You are part of something eternal. The awakening is not happening to you, it's happening through you. The world is waiting to see what heaven already knows, that your light was never small, never random, never forgotten. So share if it moved you, like if it touched you. Comment if you feel it. Subscribe if you want to keep walking in this light. Give if your heart whispers to, not because you must, but because beauty multiplies when shared. Let this be your moment of release, your quiet, voluntary act of faith, not pressured, not planned, just pure, just free, just love, flowing outward like light over the horizon. There comes a point in the journey where your eyes begin to lift from the temporary and fix themselves on eternity. The world around you keeps spinning, chasing its fleeting trophies, yet your heart starts beating to a different rhythm, the rhythm of forever. You realize that you were never meant to live only for the next opportunity, the next approval, the next success. You were meant to live with eternity in view. When eternity becomes your perspective, everything changes. The disappointments that once consumed you lose their sting. The victories that once defined you lose their weight. You start to see that every experience, joyful or painful, has been shaping you for a story that stretches far beyond this lifetime. Heaven's timeline is longer than you imagined, and your life is only the opening chapter of it. The Apostle Paul wrote in his second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 18, "So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal." Those words are not a call to ignore the world, they are an invitation to see it rightly. The unseen is not a distant dream, it is the greater reality. Heaven is not somewhere you escape to, it is something that has already begun within you. Eternity doesn't start when you die, it starts when you awaken. When your vision shifts, you stop clinging to what is fading. The things you once called losses now appear as lessons. The people who left were not punishment, they were passageways to maturity. The seasons that closed were not endings, they were transitions into deeper understanding. Nothing was wasted. Eternity redeems even the fragments. The more your heart aligns with forever, the lighter you become. The need to prove, to hurry, to control begins to dissolve. You find yourself breathing easier, walking slower, speaking softer. You no longer fight for significance because you understand you already have it. The Creator of eternity knows your name. What greater validation could exist than that? There is a peace that comes when you stop measuring life by what fades. You begin to notice eternal patterns everywhere, the way forgiveness outlives anger, the way love outlasts pain, the way hope keeps resurrecting even in disappointment. Eternity is written into everything that survives the storm. It is the quiet resilience that refuses to die. Look closely at your own story. Can you see it now? The invisible hand that guided you when you thought you were lost. The timing that seemed random but later revealed design. The prayers that weren't answered your way because heaven had a better one. That is eternity at work, slow, patient, precise. When eternity becomes your compass, even suffering gains meaning. You stop asking why me and start asking what is being built in me. Pain no longer feels like punishment, it feels like participation in something larger. You realize that endurance is not endurance until it's tested, and faith is not faith until it's stretched. Every ache you endure becomes a brick in a structure that will outlast time. This perspective changes how you love. 2. You begin to love people not for what they can give, but for who they are, eternal souls on their own divine journeys. You start forgiving faster, because you understand that grudges don't survive eternity. You choose kindness even when it costs you, because love is the only currency that carries into forever. You will still feel pain, yes, but you will also feel peace beneath it, because you now understand that nothing can separate you from the one who holds eternity and holds you. Not loss, not failure, not even death. The world ends, but love never does. That is the foundation you stand on. Eternal perspective does not make you distant, it makes you deeper. It anchors you in storms without hardening your heart. It lets you care passionately without clinging desperately. You can pour yourself into people, dreams, and moments without fear, because you know that even if they change, the love that fueled them never dies. There will come a day when all the striving will make sense, when all the waiting will feel worth it. You will see how heaven wove meaning through every thread of your story, even the dark ones. Until that day, keep walking with eyes lifted. Every sunrise is a rehearsal for eternity's dawn. So, rest in this truth. You are not running out of time, you are running into it. Eternity is not waiting at the end of your life, it is walking beside you even now. The unseen is more real than the visible, and you are already part of it. You were never created to fade, you were created to echo. Every act of love, every prayer, every moment of faith becomes a sound that travels through eternity, carrying your name in heaven's melody. So, walk gently, but boldly. Eternity is not far, it breathes within you. You are living proof that forever has already begun, written in your heartbeat and sealed by divine light. And now you stand at the threshold, the final bend in this long and holy journey. Every step, every scar, every tear has carried you here. You may not even realize it, but heaven has been guiding you through every turn. What felt like chaos was choreography. What seemed like silence was strategy. The path you once questioned has revealed itself as divine design. This is where everything comes together: purpose, identity, and destiny merging into one steady heartbeat. You are no longer the same person who began this journey. You've been refined, reshaped, reborn. What once wounded you has now become your wisdom. What once broke you has turned into the bridge that carries others to healing. That's what heaven does. It transforms pain into prophecy. The Book of Revelation, chapter 21, verse 5, records the voice of God saying, "Behold, I am making all things new." Those words are alive right now, breathing through you. Heaven is not promising to repair the old, it's creating something entirely new. This is not restoration of what was, it is resurrection of what's meant to be. The ashes of yesterday are becoming the soil for tomorrow's beauty. You are walking proof that nothing surrendered to God ever truly dies. It is reborn in glory. Look back for a moment, not to dwell, but to see. Every wilderness, every heartbreak, every unanswered prayer has been leading you toward awakening. The trials that once seemed meaningless were sacred training grounds. The waiting was not wasted, it was preparation. Heaven was fortifying your soul for a weight of glory that only endurance could hold. You may have thought you were delayed, but you were actually being developed. You may have thought you were forgotten, but heaven was simply finishing the masterpiece in silence. Diamonds are made in darkness, not display. And now, the season of unveiling has come. You are stepping into the fullness of your divine design, humbled, healed, and holy. Everything around you will begin to align with what has already shifted within you. The outer world will start to mirror the inner transformation. Doors that once refused to open will recognize your name. Opportunities that once passed you by will pause, waiting for your yes. You no longer chase what belongs to you. You attract it through alignment. This final stretch is not about striving, it's about surrender. You don't have to prove anything anymore. The journey itself has already proven your faith. Heaven has seen your fight, your perseverance, your quiet obedience. There is no need to earn what grace has already prepared. Now, you rest in trust. You walk in rhythm with purpose. You breathe in peace instead of pressure. The weight of destiny does not feel heavy when you walk in harmony with it. You have learned that obedience is not bondage, it's freedom. Surrender is not loss, it's partnership. The same God who carried you through the valley will now crown you with victory, not the kind that boasts, but the kind that blesses. As you move forward, remember what you've learned. Light and darkness are not enemies. They are stages in the same transformation. You needed the night to recognize the dawn. You needed the breaking to understand the beauty of rebuilding. You needed the silence to value the sound of God's voice. Everything has served your awakening. Do not rush the ending. Let this peace settle deep into your spirit. You've come through storms, but you've also become the calm. You no longer wait for light, you are light. You no longer seek confirmation, you are the confirmation. The world will recognize the presence of heaven when you walk into the room, not because of noise or display, but because your peace will speak louder than words. You have stepped into a sacred maturity, the quiet authority of those who have been through the fire and still carry grace. You are not chasing your destiny anymore. You are carrying it. You are the message now, the living testament of mercy. The embodied answer to prayers once whispered in desperation. And though this chapter closes, the story doesn't end. The chosen are eternal travelers, always growing, always glowing. New assignments will come. New seasons will rise. But you will meet them differently now, not as someone searching, but as someone sure. The foundation beneath you is unshakable. The winds may still blow, but you no longer fear them. You've learned that storms do not destroy those who are rooted in light, they reveal them. You've seen too much to doubt and endured too much to quit. You walk forward, not in uncertainty, but in quiet confidence that all things truly do work together for good. So lift your head. The night is over. The dawn has arrived. Not around you, but within you. Every promise, heaven whispered, is alive and unfolding. The chapter of becoming is complete. The chapter of being begins. Walk forward. Shine freely. Speak gently. Love fully. Because you are the living proof of what happens when a soul says yes to destiny. And now, chosen one, we have walked the path together from the first whisper to the final light. If these words have stirred something in you, if they have reminded you that heaven still speaks, then let that awakening flow outward. Take a quiet moment to like, share, and subscribe, not as an act of habit, but as a gesture of gratitude. Think of it as sending a spark into the night, a small flame that might find someone else still standing in the storm, still looking for a sign that they are not forgotten. Every share is a seed of light, falling gently into unseen soil. Each like, each word you pass forward, becomes a bridge for another soul to cross from despair into hope. You never know whose heart your small action will reach, perhaps the one about to give up, perhaps the one waiting to remember who they are. And if your spirit feels moved to do more to help keep this voice alive for others, then let giving be your song of thanksgiving. Think of your donation not as currency, but as oil for the lamp. That oil does not burn for me, it burns for the next listener, the next weary heart scrolling in silence, the next child of destiny about to awaken. You are not buying blessing, you are joining its flow. If this message has found you at the right time, let it echo through your actions. Comment below, say what this journey has meant to you. Your words become threads of light woven into the tapestry of this movement. Together, we keep the fire alive. Thank you for walking this sacred path. The light in you has always been the purpose. Go now and keep shining.